I actually was uncomfortable in that scene because he's so fucking old. Like, even when they de-age him, you're like, he's still like
Still
2.
5 times their age.
He's still old as fuck, and he's like, "My dear, you're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen." And you're like, "Yeah, I bet, old skis bag." That's you.
Beautiful ladies.
Right now is the time for me to leave everything I know behind. No more lies.
Shadoo-doo-doo-doo. Shadoo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Oh, when you walk by every night, talking sweet and looking fine, I get kind of hectic inside. Baby, I'm so into you, darling, if you only knew all the things that flow through my mind. But it's just a sweet, sweet fantasy, baby. It's a little weirder with only 2 of us here. That choice of song. Welcome to Rabbit Fighters, the podcast that's not so much a podcast as it is an opportunity for 3 pals to get together and shoot the shit. 2 pals tonight.
Usually 3 pals.
Yeah, usually 3. But we're down to 2 tonight. So tonight we're talking about your favorite fictionalized and stylized purveyor of 18th century Germanic fantasy, none other than the Baron Hieronymus Karl Friedrich Freiherr von Munchausen, as depicted in the 1988 film by the imaginative and tragicomic stylings of Minnesotan, by way of England, Terry Gilliam. This was Gilliam's 5th feature film, coming hot on the heels of Brazil, which was the highest rated film in Rabbit Fighters history. Check out episodes 16 and 50 for more on Brazil. Like Brazil, The Adventures of Baron Munchausen was fraught with off-screen drama, but this time, rather than facing Brazil's famous difficulties with demands for re-edits, Baron Munchausen was over budget from day one, growing from the mid-20s of millions of dollars to an estimated $46 million, but only bringing in a paltry $8 million at the box office. So the film boasted Gilliam's trademark batshit crazy commitment to detailed and intricate practical effects and an eclectic cast of misfits with fellow Python Eric Idle as Quicksilver, co-writer Charles McCowan as Cable, Winston Dennis as Colossus, Jack Purvis as Storm, Sarah Polly as Kitty Pryde, and John Reginald Neville OBE as the titular Baron von Munchausen, aka Professor X. The film, you're getting these X-Men references here. The film holds a soft spot in the hearts of many a child of the 80s, but damned if not all the Rabbit Fighters saw it. So let's check in with one of the boys. Greg, what's up?
Yeah, so this wouldn't have qualified if it was just the 2 of us because Brian hadn't seen it. But Brian had to go and have a baby.
Good Lord.
And well, I mean, he didn't have a baby, but his wife had a baby, and by, virtue of that, he is being a good father. And sometimes we're having to pick up the slack while he is a good father and not a piece of crap dad and partner. So Brian's not having seen this allowed us to talk about it. We've both seen it.
I still maintain that this was just an excuse for him not to have to watch Baron Munchausen.
I know. Whenever he comes back and we do the Steely Dan episode, I'm gonna pretend I had a baby.
Yeah,
We had another baby. It's just I couldn't listen to it. Just the baby was crying the whole time. Steely Dan on. The baby doesn't like Steely Dan, and so I
Go figure.
I know.
Go figure.
Wasn't the
So
only
yeah,
one. Yeah.
behind the scenes of Rabbit Fighters, when we picked this, we tried to record a couple of times here, but we support engaged fathers here on Rabbit Fighters, and so we're trudging on.
Having a baby is like getting into a tiny war, and you never know what the war is going to bring day to day, and you never know how you're going to come out on the other side of this tiny war. That really just keeps expanding, and the term mission creep comes to mind.
Yeah, rest assured, we are never going to let him forget this. So
seriously,
um,
you picked it, right? You picked
Baron
it.
Munchausen, yeah.
Yeah.
I figured, you guys had with such good reactions to Brazil,
Yeah,
And that was a real shot in the dark. Like I had absolutely no idea what you guys were gonna think about that movie.
yeah,
And I felt like second time's a charm. Like maybe Baron Munchausen.
go back to
Um,
oh,
but in like this is a movie I grew up on. Like I remember from a very young age, just watching the shit out of this and
yeah,
loving it, and being just like enormously entertained. And now in my 40s, going back and watching it,
yeah.
I'm not so sure.
Yeah,
It's been a while since I've seen this. Maybe,
me too.
10 years plus since I've seen this movie
Oh,
last. So,
I saw it when it came out in the theater, and then I made my family see it, did that a lot, especially because my dad would send me out for, like, 3 videos a night sometimes, like, especially in the summer, like, every night to this little video store in Hamilton, Massachusetts. He'd be like, "Yeah, I got a couple more videos." Just like, it doesn't have that many videos, so I wanted to bring back, like, anything and so when I saw a movie in the theater and I liked it, I'd be like, "Oh, I'm totally grabbing this." Like, you go to the video store, the first time it shows up in the video store and nobody under, the age of, I don't know, 35 or something knows what the hell we're talking about, but,
do
you
you
go
think video stores will come back?
I don't know. I don't know. I feel like as AI takes off and everything becomes inauthentic, there's going
Hmm.
to be an authenticity revival, probably a short one, but people are gonna, like, I don't know, make each other stuff, and they'll do mixtapes again, and
Ah, I can't wait for that.
yeah, yeah, and people be like, "I knitted my boyfriend a sweater for fucking Christmas," and people will want face-to-face contact because everything will just become so fake, and it already is. Like, you go on social media and someone's like, "This is an adorable picture of an owl standing on one foot," and everyone's like, "AI, AI, AI. This is AI. You idiot, this is AI." Like, and then everyone just doesn't know what to trust at all anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that kind of dovetails in this movie because, like, I always have because I'm a child of the 70s and 80s, so, like, I have a thing for movies like the original Star Wars where they mix animation, real people, and miniatures and paintings and shit like that. They just, like, multimedia the hell out of it, and
Because that's
nothing
all they
looks
had.
fake because, yeah, they have, like, back then there was blue screens, but they'll blue screen/green screen backgrounds, but they'll have, like, real models coming through, like a Star Destroyer that someone made out of die-cast metal, and it just looks better to me. I don't know, than the blippy shit where they do all computer graphics.
Yeah.
I think of, like, the first Harry Potter movie where there's this Quidditch scene, and you're like,
Oh,
"Good
I know
lord,
exactly what you're talking about.
it's fake as fuck." He's, like, spinning around in the broom and upside down, and you're like,
Yeah.
you just see the screen and the
I mean,
wire.
there were video games at the time that were better than
They
that.
seriously were. I know, it's Chris Columbus. Who would have thought the Baby's Day Out and Home Alone guy would have, like, whiffed on the Harry Potter series, um, but yeah, so I do have a real affection for movies that use real stuff in an adventure or a fantasy movie, even to the extent of, like, I love claymation. I don't
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
all those Nick Park movies, the
Mhm.
Wallace and Gromit and Shaun the Sheep and any of that stuff.
There's a new one that came out, and we were watching it and
Yes.
debating is like, "Is this all CGI or is it actually claymation?" I was like,
No,
"No, there's a fingerprint right there on his head. You can see it
no.
if you look real close."
I heard the interview, and it's claymation. They said it takes 4 years to make these,
God
even though
damn.
they have the same people that do the movies again and again and again, and they know their role, and they got the fucking process
I
down,
love it.
assembly line process. It still takes 4 fucking years, but
We are getting off on a tangent, though.
we are, yeah, we
Do
are.
you want to tell the plot?
Yeah, I'll
I mean,
tell
this is not this is a hard task.
it is it is a hard task. You might have to do it.
I don't think I could,
I'll
but
try. I'll do my version of the plot where, it starts in a war, and there's the war, and there are, the Turks, like the Turks back when they
a
were
very generic, like, 18th century war.
that were born yeah, they were like, "The Turks are at the gate," which was a very, convenient way to say there's some, horde outside that we're supposed to be scared of. And, during as this war is going on, inside this barricaded area, there is a merriment going on in a theater. They're doing a giant production of the Adventures of Baron Munchausen, and they have a man with a fantastical costume, and they have really cool costumes and sets and stuff like this. And I used to work with this company in Chicago called Red Moon, which did stuff like this, and I'm very fond of that. When
Like with the whale head that
ah,
comes down and
cool, I was like, this is so much like a Red Moon thing right here. Um, and so I'm like, really, it's quite a cool, play that's being put on during this war. And then at some point, this guy staggers on stage and fucks everything up and says, "You're screwing it up. I'm the real Baron Munchausen," and he's old as hell, and we don't know who he is. And the Turks are still invading, and then he messes everything up, and the ladies come over, and he flirts with ladies, and then he floats off in an air balloon. Says, "I'm going to bring help," or something like that, and he takes off, and he goes on an adventure with this young girl, a dog that's oh no, the dog doesn't go on the adventure.
the dog stayed behind.
Yeah, the dog stayed behind it, waited for him. Yeah, but with the young girl, and then he finds his old comrades in arms, so to speak, and they've like the Blues Brothers. They've scattered off to various parts of the world and taken
Almost exactly like the Blues Brothers.
regular.
That's totally the movie I would have drawn a comparison to.
But it kind of is. It's like he has to find him and like, oh, this guy's working in the diner. This
Yeah,
guy's a
he
maitre d'
plays bass.
hotel. This guy's working for a sultan. And he has to travel the world and find his old comrades in arms, and reassemble them to come back and save the poor barricaded people from the Turks. And many crazy ass things happen on this adventure. Many crazy ass cameos come up, like Robin Williams' floating head as the King of the Moon, and
An uncredited Robin Williams.
uncredited last second Robin Williams, cameo, and then he comes back to save the day, and yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's succinct.
we're still going. Yeah,
I forgot you only saw it once, so
yeah.
yeah. I think you covered the high points. I think there is like the what I would add to that is the movie continually seems back and forth between the fact that he's telling this story to everybody,
Yeah,
that the story that is happening to them currently also woven in with his own adventures and his own travels, all while staying completely stationary, dying multiple times, um, traveling to the moon, traveling to the underworld, um, into the whale in the belly of a beast, or in the ocean, a giant whale,
yeah,
meeting death like several times. And then, he ostensibly started the war because of an
oh
ill-conceived
yeah.
bet,
The disagreement with the Turks, and
and
they
so
carry off all the treasure.
logically, he's the only one who can end the war because that's how wars work.
Right.
So-
This is a single point of failure.
but there's this butting of the heads between fantasy and rationality, and so the whole town that's being surrounded by the Turks smacks of like the French Revolution for
Yeah,
some reason.
yeah. It's all
Where
very
you've got like the Age of Reason, like they're the ones dictating the war. The what's his name who was in the lead in Brazil,
yeah,
um,
yeah. The Jonathan Price,
Jonathan Price, yes, the excellent
another
Jonathan.
bureaucrat. This
The,
time,
yeah, the right ordinary Horatio Jackson was his character, in this, who is keeping the war going because he only wants to end it on rational, reasonable terms. Meanwhile, people are dying like all around.
yeah,
He
and
sends Sting to his death because he was too heroic and didn't want to rock the boat too much for the
right,
other soldiers because he
yeah,
was just such a hero. Can't stand that kind of behavior when you're running a city and an army based
right,
purely on your own reasons. So um so you've just got this magical Baron Munchausen who's based off a real person who apparently didn't really like that his friend wrote these stories about him, but his friend died having, so he couldn't like sue him or anything, and so that the stories just sort of entered the public consciousness,
So
the
what?
zeitgeist.
The real Baron Munchausen was supposed to have had all kinds of wackadoodle adventures, or
He
what?
was apparently well known around whatever
Sort of.
Prussian town in the 1800s, 1700s
Yeah.
for being someone who told a lot of stories. Like he was just like ran his mouth a lot, basically, about
Okay.
all these adventures that he supposedly had, but everyone's like, dude's a total liar. And
Yeah.
so his friend was an author and was like, took him as a character and just took it to the nth level of an old like senile guy who actually did have these kind of adventures. And so
Yeah.
and there's been to date, I think like 3 or 4 other movies before Terry Gilliam's. There was I think a German one in 1945. So
Yeah.
like right in the middle of the Nazi regime, they
I
came out.
know. I know.
German cinema came out with
Yeah.
Baron Munchausen.
This is
Um,
interesting.
in the 60s, there was a Czech um, director. Oh, I posted it today in our Slack chat. What's his name? It was, oh shit, I had it right there. Carol Zeman,
Cool.
which was just released a few years back, like digitally restored. I couldn't get my hands on it though. It looks amazing though. Like the special effects look really crazy for 1962. But apparently that was the movie that Terry Gilliam saw. That was
Yeah.
like, I got to take a crack at this. And so there's a
This is
lot of scenes that he kind of lifted and put into the movie, like the cannonball scene where
yeah.
he's sitting on it, sort of floating through the air, not flying. He took it was a contentious argument there about whether or not he was flying in the movie, but
Yeah. Is this the guy Carol? Is this the guy that sued Terry Gilliam over his version of Munchausen?
I don't I don't think so. I don't know.
Someone sued him and said it was he did a remake of this guy's movie, and like basically was like he stole my movie.
I think there's a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean,
Oh yeah. This
my
says
understanding is that he saw it many years before then, and then finally got a chance to do it. And things I've read, he seemed to credit it quite a lot as being the inspiration. So,
this
um,
one's thing I saw here. It says an end title card says the film is not related to the UFA Transit Murnau 1942-43 motion picture.
that would be the Nazi
Right.
one.
So the 43 one sued Terry Gilliam, claiming the film was a remake. So that was the German one. Yeah,
Mm.
it was the Nazi one.
And then there was one that was like 1911 or something like that.
Oh wow. Yeah.
That was also, so this character has been around quite a
Yeah.
lot, but this was really like the first attempt to show this story to American audiences,
Yeah.
and it did not really land.
Nuts.
So it only made like $8 million, and
Wow.
there was like tons and tons of drama behind the scenes. It was over budget from like just the get go,
Yeah.
and to the point where I think I tried to find sources. It doesn't seem like there's a definitive dollar amount that
Yeah.
you can say this movie cost. There's a
They
range.
they like yeah, they torched the papers so that no one would ever know how much it cost. But I read a bunch of interviews with people that worked on it, and like nobody had a good word to say about working on this movie. Like not one person, basically. They're just even
Yeah,
Michael Palin. I mean,
Eric Idle.
Kurt Idle, who is one of the original Monty Python guys, who was like, you don't do his movies. You see them, but you don't do them. Like I forgot that you don't do Terry's movies. And then I guess Michael Palin was supposed to be in it too, but his
There were
character.
a lot of people who were supposed to be in it, but the budget went so far over.
Yeah,
So, who was it? James Bond.
Sean Connery.
Sean Connery was supposed to be the King of the Moon.
Yeah,
That entire King of the Moon scene was cut down to what it is now, with Robin Williams doing an uncredited and unpaid performance
yeah,
because they couldn't afford to do what he actually wanted to do, which was a much, much larger, grandiose scene with Sean Connery and thousands of extras, and they cut it down to a pretty barren, lifeless moonscape
yeah,
with the cardboard, like the back paintings from the stage
Yep.
that were going to be really, really far in the back of the scene, but they could only use those, so they brought it up, and so everything has this like veneer of fakeness on the moon.
Yeah,
Um, but
and
that was out of like budgetary
I
concerns,
guess they
apparently.
cut yeah, I guess they cut the character too a bunch, and so Sean Connery was like, "It doesn't seem very kingly to me anymore. I don't want to do it.
So yeah,
I'm
so then
going
he
to
got deposed, and
home and smoke cigars because I don't need the money."
so but apparently Robin Williams like agents were like, he can be in the movie, but you can't advertise. You can't use him to like do interviews beforehand to get people in
Yeah,
seats,
yeah,
because otherwise then you got to pay him.
yeah,
So we can't credit him. He's going to do it on his own, but
and no one will
you don't tell
recognize
anybody that he's in it. So,
no one will recognize that it's him, right? They'll be like,
yeah,
"Oh, that guy looks and sounds remarkably like Robin Williams."
there
Like,
must be a ton of cocaine on the moon.
it's actually made of cocaine. Little known fact, all those craters are where the man in the moon snorted the cocaine out.
Yeah. Um,
It
but
would have been
watching it, I felt like, I don't know if you want to get to like what did you like about this movie?
yeah,
Why don't we do that?
um, yeah, you know, I love Monty Python from back in the day. I said this already. I was like, "Oh, yeah, Eric Idle's in it," and I saw it in the theater as soon as it came out. Me and some friends scrambled to see this movie in the theater because we were big Monty Python heads, and I remember we loved it, and we were just like, "The Man in the Moon is hilarious," and all this stuff, and, I wasn't even actually a big Robin Williams fan, but I was like, "As the Man in the Moon, he's great." Um, and, uh, and so, yeah, coming back to it, I had my family watch it. As we do movie night on Friday night, I was like, all right, we got to record, tomorrow. Can we watch this? And they were like, oh, it's old. I
I
don't
have
want
to.
to. I was like, yeah, just give me a break. Just watch the movie. Like it's funny. It's a good movie. And then it's just it's it's less fun than I remember by a bunch.
Hmm.
And it's
A lot
less
darker, and
I remember by a bunch. And like, and the girl who played the young girl,
Polly, yeah.
yeah, she was like, I was put in danger in that movie. Like she like hates Terry Gilliam. She's like, you almost like someone
Or
knocked.
there's Sarah Polly, Sally
Yeah,
Salt.
yeah. She was like, someone
That's
knocked
the
me in the
name.
water at some point and it knocked a bomb next to me, and they had to like fish me out of the water. And that was
Yeah,
terrified.
I read that interview a couple times. I thought that was it was an interesting take, especially in like this day and age to have. She was a child actress, and
Yeah,
this is be one of her very first big things.
yeah,
To be on the set and to be like so traumatized by it, and but to
yeah,
also talk so openly about it to Terry Gilliam, who had responses to it,
yeah,
who was like, "Yeah, you can say whatever you want about this movie and in your experience on it." Other
yeah,
people were interviewed to it. He didn't apologize. He didn't necessarily fully agree, but he didn't also totally disagree with it. So there was an interesting take that, yeah, his directing style may have endangered quite a few people, but also with this sort of like, it was the 80s, we're
yeah.
making art.
And then part of her take was like, okay, my parents should have been the ones protecting me from this movie, but
Yeah,
they didn't do anything. And like, I mean, that she was like, well, I feel like I let you off the hook a little bit later, because the director is the one who is actually responsible for the safety of the people on set. Like it's, if it's a ship, you're the captain. If the ship goes down or anyone gets hurt or dies on the ship, even if it wasn't a direct result of your actions, it's still your ship, and you hired the people that are running it, below deck and all that stuff. So yeah,
yeah,
it does come back to the director. But yeah, I feel like his sensibilities of his gonzo, like, sensibilities for like what creativity is, like his way of creating worlds is interesting and cool to me. It sometimes gets too much, but I'd much rather have someone do too much and I love 90% of it or 80% of it than someone who doesn't do something interesting.
yeah. He tries. I gotta say, I mean, I love Terry Gilliam. but when I say that, I love all of his earlier work because
Yeah.
beyond like probably Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, I
Yeah.
don't think I've seen too much. Like, I mean, what was the
I don't even know he did.
Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus or something? That was
Oh,
one
yeah,
Heath
yeah.
Ledger died during
Ledger
that
died,
one.
like 5 actors play Heath Ledger's part.
Yeah, that's probably the last one that I've actually seen,
See that, yeah.
which was quite a while ago. But I'm much more acquainted with his earlier work when I was a kid and a teenager and in my early
Yeah,
20s. Like really consumed like a ton of Terry Gilliam material,
yeah,
and I just love his dedication to the details.
yeah,
Like in 12 Monkeys, there's a whole documentary that just like focuses on his there's one scene and it lasts a blink of an eye, and you can barely see it off in the corner. There's a rat in a wheel that has a backlight behind it, but apparently like there were hours of arguments and reshoots to get that fucking rat
yeah,
moving
yeah.
on camera, and it was just like that was like boiled down
My
one
god.
incident into this is the mindset of Terry Gilliam.
Yeah,
So,
I know people like that, man. I know theatrical people that are like that. They just, like, force this weird stuff, and everyone's like, "Why do you need a fucking
because
rat?
it's the art.
Don't need a rat." It's like, "We need the rat!
Yeah,
It's
so
so important."
when you're saying like it doesn't need to be a war film, it doesn't need to be explosions, I can guarantee you Terry was like, no, absolutely not.
I
There
know.
has like it's got to blow up right by her head
Yeah,
if it's going to be real. So,
know, like, it's like you don't he doesn't need to. Um,
well, maybe not. That's not the best.
yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like I feel like this happens again and again with Terry Gilliam movies where they're like, "Oh, it was a disaster. It ran over budget. Everyone was mad. All these people got fired."
it almost didn't get made.
I know, and he did the, Don Quixote one that
Hmm.
didn't get made, like,
It didn't get made. And then they made a movie about it. Didn't get not getting made.
that was they finally was a bridge too far, for the studio. They were just like, "Fuck it, we're shutting you down, man."
Yeah, I actually saw that one in the theater, and that was really interesting. It was really sad to see like
Yeah.
all the crazy shit that happened that was just like working against him. Like it really is like a cursed
Didn't the
story
lead
to put on film.
lead actor get a heart attack or something? Wasn't
He was really old and he
Yeah,
couldn't ride the horse, and he like rode the horse like it won't like I don't know, compacted his vertebrae or something like that, and
this
so he was done. It was like on the first day of shooting,
oh
and
my
then like they were trying to shoot other scenes while he was recovering, hoping that he would come back around,
yeah,
and there were like UN fucking planes flying over, and then
god,
torrential downpours that destroyed all the sets and
my god.
just like real cosmic shit
Yeah.
went down.
I mean, the same thing with this movie, like, they kept saying all this stuff that went wrong with this movie, and, like, yeah, it sounds cursed as
Maybe it's
well.
the logistics.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like, after a while, it's like your friend who's like, "All the girls I date are psycho," and you're like, "Eh, you dated, like, 17 women, and they're all psycho? I think it's time to look in the mirror, my friend."
I think you have a type.
It might be. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
So, yeah, I don't know. What I like is the theatricality of this movie. I like, his sense of adventure, his, endless desire to spin tales, and to have them have meaning behind them, not just like, "Oh, we're doing fanciful stories," like, there's a backbone to them, you know, but, yeah, um, it does concern me when someone doesn't put other people's well-being topmost in the production. I mean, I feel like people are way better at that these days.
Yeah.
Actors and other people in the creative industry have gotten better at being like, I may never work again, but like, you almost blew me up, like, and I
Yeah.
can't have that.
That's it's such an interesting thing because I mean he's like safety is like my number one thing. Like,
Yeah,
but then Sarah Pauly, in the interviews, like I actually talked to other people who worked like as a cameraman on the set, and we both like he agrees like, oh my god, we were so worried about you all the time.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it seems like there's like either a disconnect between what Terry
yeah,
Gilliam considers safe, or or he's lying. But I just don't think, like, I feel like I got to give him the benefit of the doubt because he just seems so genuine.
Yeah,
And like, I feel like we know other liars in society, and the behavior of the liar is to deny, 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 and then sue, and
right.
then no, 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 just like completely. But his behavior was like, you have an opinion about this, put it out there, let's talk about it, get it out there. It's just as valid as everything else, like, but not necessarily saying they're right. I guess I don't know. It's a
Yeah,
complicated sort of thing. I guess
but
what
it's
I'm
a
trying to say.
kid,
But
you
yeah, as
gotta
a kid, you get a believer.
kid, come on,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
the most basic thing, you gotta protect the kid in the movie, damn.
yeah.
Uh,
I mean, they had her like in freezing cold
Freezing
water.
cold water, that's where the bomb fell in, that's the horse kicked,
Oh god.
because someone startled the horse or whatever, yeah, yeah, man, I don't know,
I wouldn't let my kids be on in this movie.
no, no, I feel like some of these guys get out over their skis sometimes, where, like, you just you have everything in your head that you wanna happen, and you know it, and you see it, and I've worked with directors like this too. They see every detail of the physical, the design, everything, everything, everything. They're completists. And I feel like he's one of these people for film. Um, he's like a completist. Nothing hasn't been considered by him before the movie starts. Like he's like, I want the costumes to look like this. I want the lighting to have this effect on it. I want the actors to have this sort of look about them and the makeup. I want the sets to have these little, details on them. I want a rat in a wheel. So
Gotta have the rat in the wheel.
I feel like, he probably knows he probably just knows everything that he wants, but like sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes you can't get it. And some of these people are people who can adjust and be like, okay, 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 we can't get it. Let's try a different tactic. And some of them are like, all right, we burned through the entire budget and now we don't have any left. And everyone wants to fire me. And I still have 17 scenes left to film and they're half of the movie. And I guess we'll put Robin Williams on a dinner plate in front of fucking pieces of paper and just roll with it because, we don't have any money now. And they fired the rest of the staff at
Yeah.
Universal or Columbia Pictures that supported me. Um, I feel like he got over his skis on this one. And I feel like to this point, he had kind of gotten lucky in that he wanted a whole shit ton of nutso stuff in his earlier movies, and there weren't that many problems, and enough people did believe in him and kept giving him money, and it worked out. And I feel like this is one where like the luck ran out.
Yeah.
And he just had to start scrapping and cutting parts, cutting scenes, sticking stuff together, using duct tape and chewed gum to hold this thing together. So it shows. It
Yeah.
shows.
I mean, I just can't imagine why a fanciful story about an 18th century Prussian storyteller didn't hit home
I know.
in middle America in the
I know.
80s.
And it's hard. And like, I love, a lot of things about the way he makes movies and the way his storytelling. But I mean, I didn't watch it twice.
It was a weird
But
one. Yeah.
it's hard to see what he's getting at. In Brazil, you're like, it's a dystopia, and you're like, okay, you know, man's inhumanity man. You've got this alienated, drone who has to break out of this utopia, this dystopia, and try to find Maro land. Like that's a clear journey a little bit. And this one is like there's a war and there's storytelling and magic helps defeat the war or something, and art
Yeah.
defeats the dragon.
He's asking, I think, a lot of the audience in this one.
Yeah. There are other movies that do this kind of thing where like The Princess Bride, right? Like The Princess
Mhm.
Bride is a pretty good example of a story that starts out with a framing device. The grandfather is telling the story to the kid. The kid's like, I don't want this. Can we not do this? And he's like, come on, let me tell you a story. Let me tell you a story. And then they spin this fanciful tale. Crazy unbelievable shit happens, but it's cool because the grandpa's reading a story to the kid. They cut back to the kid every once in a while and how's the story going? Okay, let's get back into it. And that like that gives the audience a grounding that they need. Like, people need something to grab onto. The air balloon can't carry you off into
The
space.
knicker balloon.
Yeah,
It was all
yeah,
knickers.
the knicker balloon. I did love the knicker balloon. I thought that was pretty great. I was like, boy, they have a lot of ladies' knickers though in this town.
Yeah.
That's a lot of knickers. But yeah,
There's like
so
3 women in the whole town.
I know
All of a sudden, there's
they're right. Like, boy, they just had in
bushel of
wartime,
underwear.
like with rationing, they had this many bloomers. Whatever the fuck.
Again, don't ask too many questions. I was gonna say though, you're like Princess Bride. This is
Yeah,
now the second movie in a row where we've been talking about one movie and we're like, you know what's a better version of this? A Rob Reiner film.
yeah,
Like, like Outsiders.
yeah.
You know what's better? Stand by Me.
Yeah, exactly. And we also mentioned this is Spinal Tap for the what's her name?
Yeah.
Fran Drescher. He was in
So
this is
Rob Reiner, he's making lots of appearances here.
me that also he was in the what is it? The Leonardo DiCaprio movie,
Wolf of Wall
Wolf
Street.
of Wall Street. Yeah, he was the dad in Wolf
Damn,
of
maybe,
Wall
maybe he's the connection
Street. I
between
know.
all of our.
He's like
Take
six
that back.
degrees of Rob Reiner. 6 degrees of meathead. Um, but yeah, so I feel like the Princess Bride has this framing device that works for a standard audience, right? If you watch these two movies side by side and ask somebody which of these is going to make more money, you'd be like, oh, the one with the fucking adorable kid and the grandpa, and the love story,
The sword fighting and stuff. Yeah.
and the shit that everyone could understand. And when weird stuff happens, it's because it's a story and it's okay. We know the grandpa is telling a story, and this is the fantastical shit that's happening in the story. Whereas in this movie, you're like, is it happening for real? Like, probably, but also it's a story that they were doing on stage, and he's going out there, and the
Yeah.
people that he recognized in the stage play were the people in his real crew, and then he goes out and finds them, and like, so they're back there at the stage, and they're in the stories that he's flown off in the knicker balloon to go find on his Blues Brothers adventure to get the band back together. Um, so it's harder. It's a difficult picture,
hmm
you know. If you
I think
pitch,
Terry Gilliam would say we lack imagination, which is why we didn't get it.
I know,
But it's like that whole ending. Like it didn't bother me when I was a kid, and I think
yeah,
that's really the like when I look back on like my enjoyment of this.
yeah,
I didn't ask any questions because I was really excited to see all the crazy things on the screen that were
right,
being presented to me. So you know the Grim Reaper with flaming red hair was like
yeah,
that's some cool shit when
yeah,
you're like 9 years old.
totally, yeah,
And
yeah,
then when they're simultaneously on stage talking about this whole tale, and they're also out there fighting the Turks
yeah,
at the exact same moment. And then the whole ending where they open the gates and
yep.
triumphantly open the gates, and all the Turks are just magically gone.
They
They
just
all parade out there, and then
they
Baron
wish them well.
Munchausen goes and stands on the mountaintop and just disappears.
Yeah,
You're just like, that's kind of wonderful, but as an adult, you're like, what the fuck is going on?
I know. People need grounding, man.
I'm not even high. What is going on?
No, it's like, like, and it's so much more of The Princess Bride is so much more of a conventional
Yeah,
movie, and a critic is going to enjoy it, but a critic is going to be like, well, actually, the Baron Munchausen is much more brilliant as a
yeah,
movie because they don't give you this pablum that you can understand easily, and they don't have to check back in with Grandpa, and like, and if you don't get it, you're stupid. But that's what people hate. Like, nobody wants to feel stupid watching a movie. No one's like, "Oh, I didn't get it. It must be me."
look at a U tenant.
A smart person made this. Yeah, I know. Yeah, right. Gonna watch it 7 times for fucking understand what's going on.
I swear I'm not stupid.
I'm
I understand this movie.
or you pretend you got it. Oh yeah, it's
I
great.
swear.
Loved it. So yeah, like, you can see why it didn't do that well. Obviously, Terry Gilliam's like, well, they didn't push it to enough theaters, they didn't give enough marketing. That's what everybody says when their movie didn't do well. Like,
Yeah.
oh, they didn't market it hard enough. They didn't market it the right way. And sometimes they're right, but in the end, this is a niche picture, you know,
Totally.
like, you
So
know,
so what did your family ultimately think of this?
they didn't care for it. They didn't. And like as soon as it started, they were like, "What the hell with the theater show?"
Yeah. I
And I
mean,
was
that's the pacing. That is a long intro
like,
before it
"It's
finally, like
yep,
it's a absolutely brilliant bit of camera work when they finally do it, where he starts telling the story, and he's
yeah,
still on stage and still the same sets, and then he just turns slowly, and it's real world inside of, Constantinople or something like that.
yeah, yeah."
But it's a long fucking buildup for a kid in 2025.
I know. It is, and when you're the one who suggested the movie,
You're like, "Oh, get to it."
you don't want it to work so well, you know, you're just like, it's like if you take someone to see a stand-up comic you like, you know, and you're like, "This guy's hilarious. You gotta see this guy. You gotta see him," and you take him to
Looking over them. See?
fucking bombs. Just like, "You thought this guy's funny?" And you're like, "He normally, I mean,
I swear I have good
I
taste.
remember him being funnier." Like, I just you see you on a bad day, I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was sweating in the beginning because I was like, "Oh shit, how long is this intro?" Takes a long
Yeah.
time. Um, it is a relief when the hot air balloon made of knickers floats out of there, and you're
Yeah,
like,
because then you're like, "It's cooking
"Okay,
now." We're
now we're doing stuff." Now we're doing stuff. And it is yeah, it's entertaining. There's entertaining stories. I feel like they aren't they aren't that well connected though.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like the stories are like a series of those like little golden books. Remember when you were a
Yeah,
kid? And it
totally.
was like, Billy the Bunny, and it's like 12
Mr. Toad's Wild
pages.
Rides.
Yeah, and you're like, well, Billy the Bunny sure learned some shit about stealing. And then there's a whole stack of them, and you're like,
And now we're in a harem.
kid's still awake. Yeah, I guess I'll read another little golden book. It's kind of like 1,001 Arabian Nights, right? Like, this,
Yeah. It's which I think is partially the source material, is that
yeah,
it's
the
a
storytelling
bunch of small tales. Like,
delay their own execution or whatever, and they're like, I'm gonna just keep spinning tales, keep this going. So yeah, it's um, I feel like the stories aren't very well connected, and that's why I did liken it to the Blues Brothers because like it's really just one story is like a bunch of excuses for him to find one of his gang, and then he's
yeah.
like, now a bunch of excuses to find another member of the gang and
Which is
another.
it's a very loose plot. Like, that's
Yeah,
ultimately what it
and
is. Those are just
right.
trappings, though, to
Like he could have found the whole gang in the first scene, and then they could have gone on adventures, but like I just feel like it didn't have enough the script didn't have enough like material in it to really like pull that off, it seemed like.
Yeah, he's really good at finding them. It's like literally the next place he goes, there's another dude
I
in
know,
his
I
gang.
know.
Like, there's no misses. Like, he didn't show up in the wrong country and like,
He
there's
didn't
no
show
member here.
people.
Let's go to the next place. Like, no, literally,
There's
Moon, boom, got one.
not a
Vulcan, boom, got another. Inside a whale, boom, got a third. Let's fucking
not a
go.
person I know is in this whale. Shit. Like, oh no, wait. A key member of my crew is in this whale.
I can't help but just
I know.
stumble into my friends everywhere I go.
My luck is astounding sometimes, and then astoundingly bad other times. But I unerringly find time and again my old compatriots, and they unerringly return
Hmm.
to join me in my madcap adventures, even
He
though they're
can he can
old as
assemble
fuck,
his X-Men.
not able to
To
do it.
me, my X-Men.
I know. And I didn't understand too well the him getting younger and older thing. Where it's like, oh, he's younger now,
I think that had to do with, like, his hope. Like,
right?
whenever he's, like, despondent,
Yeah,
he physically,
he
gets
ages.
more wrinkly, but then, like, Uma Thurman shows up, and man, he's 25. Like, he's, like, good to go.
It's kind of like bone Uma Thurman. I actually was uncomfortable in that scene because he's so fucking old. Like even when they de-age him, you're like, he's
He's
still like
still
52.
5 times our age.
He's still old as fuck. And he's like, my dear, you're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. And you're like, yeah, I bet, old skis bag. That's you.
Beautiful ladies.
two different ages. Yeah, and apparently that was Uma Thurman's first ever movie that she
Yeah.
auditioned for, and she got cast in it, but it took so long to make it that it wasn't
It's
her
like the
first
third or
released
fourth.
movie. This movie got lapped by her second movie and actually came out after it,
Yeah.
which is saying something.
So yeah,
Um,
we got the debut of Uma Thurman. We have an uncredited Robin Williams.
yeah,
A really just crazy, fantastic cast.
yeah,
Should we kind of grade this sucker? I mean,
yeah, I guess so. I'd say from kicking a bomb next to a kid is an F minus, and the Knicker balloon is an A plus. Or Dancing with Uma Thurman in a swirling magical wonderland. Um, yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like I wanted to like this more than I did this second time around. I just I was just really like I as much as the visuals were neat, I was like I overall I really kind of don't like it though, you know? And you want his team to win and you want everything to go well and you want the war with the Turks to stop, but um maybe if I saw this 5 times, I'd get all the stuff that he's trying to impart as a director. Um, but even if I got it all, it's just still way less enjoyable
yeah.
than I remembered. And like I said, Michael Palin, I mean, Eric Idle, I
You're,
always mix him up. Eric Idle just seems defeated throughout, and he isn't funny. And he's not my favorite Monty Python guy, but he's still a funny guy.
oh, where's the ranking of Monty Python guys?
Oh, I mean, I have to say, I think John Cleese is top.
Mm,
I would say Michael Palin is number 2, actually. I think he's really funny. Um, and then, yeah, you start getting into it depends on what they play. Like,
mm.
Graham Chapman is, they're all funny, but like,
Graham Chapman's my top.
yeah, oh yeah, Graham Chapman. I'd probably put him at number 3, but I just think Cleese is
Yeah.
he's the most accessible and funniest and, most obviously kind of silly, uproarious character. And I think Michael Palin is probably the one I think is the smartest and like the most kind of like quietly funny. Um, and then uh, he's Eric Idle is kind of like I feel like he's slightly less talented, but he's just down for whatever they're gonna do.
A good sport.
A good sport, yeah, and it's sort of an opportunist. I'd so but he's still funny, and in here he isn't,
Yeah.
like,
He's just he's
sad
he's carrying the name. Like,
totally, yeah,
yeah.
just sad bastard stuff, that he's doing, and no one seems to be having a really particularly good time except the guy playing the Baron,
Yeah.
and the guy playing the Baron is clearly a theater guy.
John Neville.
John Neville, clearly a theater guy. Um, he seems to be having a wonderful time, and that
Yeah.
does make a difference.
He's
He
apparently very well known in England, and that's why Terry
yeah,
Gilliam cast him, is because he was an unknown.
yeah,
He wanted the character to carry the day rather than the actor's name. So
and it is, and a lot of times theater people have trouble coming to the screen and adjusting their acting style for the screen, but this is such a theatrical role that, like, I mean, it literally starts on a stage.
mm,
So I feel like that isn't a detriment to Neville because he is a big, theatrical actor in this movie, but that's what it calls for. So um, I feel like he does make you want him to win.
mhm.
Like you are carried along by him um, as a personality, but also there are times where it's like his age makes stuff skeezy sometimes. Uma Thurman, and a couple other times where he's flirting with the young ladies, the scad of young ladies, and you're like, "You gotta go." His giant nose, I don't know why he has to have a nose as long as an elbow, but, yeah.
I like when he cuts the fake nose off of the fake Baron.
Yeah, yeah,
He's got a
yeah,
prosthetic nose on.
it's got a false nose. But yeah, overall, I would say This is between like a C plus and a B minus for me.
Mm,
I will say B minus because of how inventive it is. But it's a very borderline B minus.
yeah.
I gotta say, I feel like it's a generous B minus because I like his other stuff. I feel like he got out over his skis on this one, and he ran out of luck after getting out of over his skis.
I don't know what that means. Is that a ski jump
Oh yeah,
reference?
so like
Like
if
you're too far over, then you fall,
if
or
if your skis go under you too far, you're going to
oh,
crash.
okay. So it's like a balance thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
It's
Okay.
if you the tips of your skis are but they're too far back or too far forward, you're screwed. So
It's not a
yeah.
phrase I think I've heard before.
Oh really? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I
It's good. I like it.
I come
It
from the
fits.
Northeast, so it's probably more prevalent in ski country. But yeah, I feel like I feel like every movie he gets out over his skis.
Yeah, just
Like
a
if there
touch.
are enough people to help him or give him a break or whatever, then it works. I feel like this is the first time where he ran out of luck, and
Hmm.
you know, when bad things happened, it was too much to overcome, and he pissed people off, and they fired people from Columbia, and they brought in new people that didn't like him, and some of that's on him. I
Hmm.
mean, like part of your job as a director is making nice with the studio and keeping a good, steady, funded, work relationship going.
Not consistently giving them the finger.
I work for you. Yeah, you just like, "I'm an artist, fuck you." It's like, "Okay, go do a play," you know?
Yeah.
There's serious money behind this shit, and it has to make money. It's still a product.
Not this one.
Oh, yeah. UHF made more money than
You
this.
are 40 million in the hole.
UHF at least made $1,000,000.
Oh man. Okay, so I think that's a pretty good assessment, I think.
Yeah,
I'm somewhere around there as well, but it's I don't know, like I remember loving this movie
yeah,
so much more than I do now.
yeah,
Um and like there's something very sinister about it.
yeah,
It's unsettling in a way that is not pleasant,
yeah,
and I sort of like come away from it not feeling good about it, not feeling good about the experience, or like in my gut, I'm just like, there's something very off about this.
yeah,
That adult Joshua cannot really grapple with the same way that child Joshua did, who did not give a shit. Who was like, this is amazing.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but I do think, yeah, it's got that like all the telltale Terry Gilliam batshitness
yep,
that I appreciate. The sets, the casting, the actual the script and the performances are fantastic, but just it's not very well stitched together.
yeah,
It's problematic in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different places, and um, yeah, and I recommended it to my family to watch, and my youngest watched it with me, and he seemed to enjoy it. But I venture to guess if he grows up continuing to watch it, he'll probably come to the same conclusion that
yeah,
there's something off about this movie. So, um, yeah, I'm gonna give it a C plus
yeah,
because it's just so unpleasant at the end of the day.
yeah,
Brazil was an unpleasant as fuck movie, but it was
yep,
stitched. It was made so well together that it's a cohesive story that you can stand behind, and you can be like, okay,
yeah,
I know where I stand on in terms of fascism and dystopia.
yeah, yeah,
These are things that I don't like, and this movie shows a pretty good telling of why you should not like those things. And
yeah,
then this is like, but I like rationality and I like reason, and this
yeah,
isn't really making a good argument for fantasy, because like it doesn't have to be like either or. Yeah, so
yeah.
at any rate,
I
C
feel like
minus for me.
Brazil. What'd you say?
Did I say C minus or C plus?
I thought
I
you
feel like
said
it's C minus. I'm gonna say C minus.
C minus. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm really when I watch it, I've had time to think about it a lot because I watched it a while ago now. I have to admit, when we finished watching it, I was like, that was like a C, like a C minus, um, but yeah, I just feel like, I just want it. I want to grade it higher. Yeah, I don't know
You know
why.
what would make it an A?
Yeah,
If I owned a bar and it was up on a TV with the sound off,
bar with the sound off.
music going on, paying attention to a million other things, and occasionally glancing over and being like, "Oh, that's a cool scene," and then back to like,
It's
"That's an
like
A right there. That's
Cotton
why.
Eye
That's where
Joe
it fits up."
rednecks playing. Where do you come from, Cotton Eye Joe? And he's like floating in the knicker balloon. Just
And
adds
you're
so
like, "Oh, I remember this movie. This is a good movie."
Wait a minute. You know what would be better? If we played the whole movie with the Benny Hill theme looped, just like nonstop in the back.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I might revise my grade to say C plus too, but
Are you gonna watch it again?
I probably won't.
Well, then there you go.
Probably won't.
When we do next year's year-end review, you can update your score.
Yeah. I'll stick with the B minus because I said it, and that's purely for the theatricality and for the guy who plays the Baron because I really did think he did a good job.
John Neville.
John Neville, good
All
on him.
right. Well, what are we gonna do next time?
I think we have a randomizer
It's
selection.
time for a rando.
A rando
This is
Keller.
gonna be tricky because the randomizer is based off 3 of us,
Yeah,
and at least one of us not having seen it. So if it lands on something where the 2 of us have seen it, do we go ahead and go for it, thinking that maybe Brian will be present for it next time? I
I
don't
think
know.
I think we
Let's
have to pick again.
let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
All right, so we have 46 items
Let me see.
on the Rabbit Fighters randomizer.
All right.
Gonna reload this sucker. Here we go. Number 13, Lucky 13. Ugh. Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny?
Oh, the Dial of Destiny. Yeah,
I haven't seen it. Have you?
I have seen it. Yeah, I think I put it in the list. They go back to the Nazis
Do I
for
have to like watch Crystal Skull to get this one?
no,
Oh, thank God.
no, not at all.
Thank God.
It's terrible. It's terrible. But this one, I was like, I'll watch this piece of shit in a plane and get it over with. And I was like, oh, like I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm stuck on a plane to India, but this is pretty enjoyable. I don't
Hey,
know.
you know, in this day and age, can't say enough good things about fighting Nazis.
All right,
So
you got to fight Nazis.
let's
whatever they